Hello, my beautiful friends. Welcome to Proper Madness, formerly Beautifully Broken. My name is Sabby, and I give a unique perspective on mental health by providing tools, guidance, and knowledge on how we can better understand ourselves, as well as our past and present experiences, and in doing so, we can help heal our mental health. I get to speak with a variety of individuals from around the world as they share their stories from their journey through their mental wellness so that it helps others stand strong and use their voice. Welcome back, everyone, to Proper Madness. I'm Sabby. Today, I have Ishini with me. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, even though I'm also brown. I'm going to butcher it, so.
It's Weerasinghe. So thank you for having me. My name is Ishini and I'm a content creator. I started Instagram when I was around 18-ish and started really creating from then on. And I got into TikTok when the pandemic started and I had all this free time. So it's been a journey and I love creating. And I love the growth that I've been able to develop on just me as a person and learning about being influenced and then influencing. So it's been wild, but still learning, still growing.
But you're just so inspirational. But the way that you share your thoughts and opinions on the female form, especially in, our culture, in Indian culture, Sri Lankan culture, that culture in and of itself, showing off our feminine form is always looked down upon. And I praise you so much for everything that you being an influencer is it's so good, what you do. So
thank you. That's so sweet. And I completely get you with our culture. Even in Sri Lanka, brown parents still applies. Watch what you wear, watch what you say, watch what you do, watch how you act, And to break away from that construct, it's been really, honestly, when you start seeing people on social media, or when I first started social media, I was first influenced by others who were doing the same thing. For me, some of the first people that inspired me was Mira Patel, who were breaking these constructs. And I was like, wow, I want to be like that. And I just switched my mind. I was like, I'm going to be like that. And with that, I evolved and learned the depth of learning the consequences and what you have to face in order to grow, because you have to face yourself rather than just facing the others, like my parents, who are going to put you down. So you have to face yourself first and be able to take the risks to grow in that direction.
What was that light bulb moment where you said, okay, I want to break out of this cultural norm that's been thrown upon me for years and years?
I guess I feel like moving to Canada was a huge thing, because if I was back home, I feel like I would be a completely different person, because I wouldn't have the access to learn about how the world is changing, or all the other cultures, different opinions, and growing with everything politically in our country, and having that open-mindedness to learn. Without having that, I don't think I would have been able to be like this. I know that's crazy, but just seeing with our relatives and stuff who live here and back home and how they're treated, my cousins, and how they follow the societal norm, and seeing how other women are treated, and just kind of having access to that information, especially through technology. As we grew up, we're a lucky generation to have had that access to be able to learn and shape our own opinions. So that, seeing all of that and seeing how my mom was treated by my own family, my dad, really wanted me to change that and be someone who doesn't have to fall into that again.
For some people who maybe don't understand the quote brown culture from South Asia, who may not know what those cultural norms are, can you maybe give a little bit of a synopsis of kind of how women are perceived in that?
Of course. Realm? And for brown people in general, women have to be, you know, like modest. They have to be groomed to be a certain type of female. Like they want, what's that? There's like not a prejudice. I'm trying to find the word, but you have to be an epitome of, you know, femininity, or like you have to serve, raise children, clean, cook, all of these things. You're supposed to have these traits in order to qualify to be a proper woman in our culture. So those are some of the traits that come along with that heavy construct.
Yes, I totally, that's why I resonated with everything that you said, because I'm Punjabi Sikh, that's where my family comes from, but I technically am third generation. Both my parents, actually my mom's from Toronto and my dad is from the UK. So, I mean, it was like a half arranged marriage. They're divorced, so don't, you know, it's a whole thing. But they themselves also didn't agree with some of those cultural societal norms. But it very was much like, be very modest. I wasn't allowed to wear makeup or go out with boys till I was like, oh God, 18, 19, even still. I always was arguing with my parents very quietly with little rebellious acts, like me, like an Indian girl. For me growing up, I'm 31. So when I was young,
You
the
don't look
cultural
very
norm.
good, by the way.
Thank you very much. Thank you. But back then, like the cultural, like the brown culture norms are pretty bad still. But that sort of stigma is still so high. And then also getting tattoos, that was like another big one. Like my parents, I thought I was going to get murdered the first time I got my tattoo. Geez. But I continued to do that. So that's why I admire everything you're doing. I saw there's one post that you posted that, like, I sat there and I was like, oh my God, she's right. But it was like, so for Indian women, literally exposing your bodies, like, oh God, oh no, if you do it, like you're a harlot, for just a really way better word than slutty. But I mean, technically, like people would assume that that's what you are if you show your skin, and you just fully embrace like your body, the female form. You look amazing, dear God. And I think that's so cool. Like, I can't imagine the backlash that you get though from some of the brown communities still. Do you, or no?
Of course, like you're obviously some of the hard-headed conservatives still coming in your DMs like, take a seat. Our keyboard warriors is what I like to call them.
Oh my God, I love that. Yes.
And honestly, for me, like doing the healing, like the spiritual work, and just to not be affected, especially when I first started doing social media, it's like, you know, you're entering this direction where you have to face criticisms, and when you do, obviously you have to do the work in order to keep growing, and if you don't, you will completely fall off being a creative if you don't actually do the work to continue with it, meaning the internal work. So if someone's like, back then I would be so broken if someone would say one negative thing among 100 nice things, you know. Sometimes you see the negative, like one negative thing, whether it's someone saying something about my body or cultural, it's like, you're not a real brown person. I'm like, you can't define that. They really do try to. But it's honestly the definition you put to yourself, how you define yourself, how you define how you're happy. That's the only way that you can really create and give your most genuine self, because you can be a brown creator and follow all the norms and just, you know, wear saris and just post like cultural content. But if you aren't staying true to yourself, and if that's what makes you happy, or if you're just posting it for what others want you to post, a certain perception of you, that's gonna either tip you over, or you're just going to plateau and not want to move from that stage. No growth.
100%, yeah. So some of the spiritual work that you said, that I'm a very, very spiritual person myself, so that piqued my interest. What was the most difficult part of your spiritual journey that you had to face while being a content creator?
For me, I would have to say, I don't know if you've heard about this or like my story. So back in 2020,
Mm.
so I'm openly speaking about this because I feel like there's just so much growth that has happened from that point in my life. So back, no, actually in 2019, there was the Easter bomb attack in
Mm.
Sri Lanka, and I did a charity fundraiser for it. I raised a lot of money, and then a year later, people started accusing me of stealing the money.
Oh, wow.
So after all of that happened, it was all proved wrong, and everything was proven that everything was given, and
Mm-hmm.
everything's given to a new charity because the other charity was not handling it right.
Mm.
So we had to move it to a different charity that was doing the work. But then people were, coming after me, and I feel that was one of like my low points because also I had a boyfriend at the time. Right after that, he ended up breaking up with me.
Yeah.
And I felt that was like a rock bottom for me. I was like 20, and as a 20-year-old, I had no idea how to handle it.
Yeah.
No, especially facing all the backlash on the internet. And honestly, I don't blame the people that were coming after me because I feel like they were also coming from a place of hurt,
Mm.
anxiety, and like, especially when someone puts something out there, it's hard to change people's perception because people still come after me, although it's proven that it
Yeah.
wasn't done. And I just know that's coming from a place that they want to know what's happening. And at the time, I do feel how I reacted. I wish it was different because
Mm.
I felt I was coming from a very narcissistic path. And I became self aware like mid last year-ish that it
Mm.
came from my family. I know that sounds weird, but like when you're surrounded by a certain environment, you become it, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So my reaction to the public or my followers and supporters, it was me just trying to deflect and protect myself the whole time when people were coming after me. And it was like mid last year, I was like, wow, I was really doing that when these people were just hurting and wanting to know answers. And then I was trying to figure out why I reacted those ways.
Mm.
I find that's so, so important now is to really figure out my reactions and where they come from so I can work on it. So I started with my parents,
Mm.
and then I went back to their parents' parents. I was like, "What happened to you guys? Why do you act like this?"
Yeah.
And I figure out why I act like this. So for me, that was the start of my spiritual work, was to become aware of where my reactions, my non-reaction of not taking the right direction in certain things came from and where it stems from, so I can grow from that. So yeah.
That's amazing. No, you explained that so well, so perfectly. But yeah, that self-awareness, I realized I've been very self-aware my entire life. So when I hear other people saying like that they have self-awareness at a certain turning point, it's a beautiful thing because self-awareness is what prompts us to change and to grow and to face that shadow work that we need to face from generations past, but yeah, what were some of the things that you learned from your parents or your parents' parents, if you feel like talking about it, that you knew, okay, I really need to shift this and change?
Of course, I asked my mom, like, what's your relationship? What was your relationship with your parents and like
Mm.
grandma and everything? And she would share things of like, typical brown parents. And she felt like it was all, it's like, how did you feel about being disciplined by your parents? Like, was that something that you felt was good, that felt right? Or like how they communicated with you? Like my grandma, she had like 10 siblings and she was like the oldest, and her mom passed away at an early age.
Oh, wow.
She ended up taking care of all of her siblings. And then she had 10 children, and my mom is the youngest.
Oh my
So
gosh.
she had a lot on her plate. And she is the epitome of a typical brown woman because
Mm.
she wed and bred.
Yeah.
And I know my grandma was also like, she went through abuse and all of like these things. And, that carries on.
Mm.
And I feel like my mom feels like discipline is such a normalized thing because she thinks it's to make you a better person, but I don't think she really understands the internalization of where that frustration and anger comes from and why that is the way that someone needs to learn, because you don't need to be physically, or like why I will have to say my mom she is loving, but she, how like brown parents are very reserved with their love.
Yeah.
Because I know my parents, or my mom told me that she's never told my dad that she's loved him. And sometimes I feel like when that happens, it's like they haven't been shown that, or like they've never heard that from their own parents. And whenever I see my parents very like reactive and emotional, I always try to remind myself that that comes from somewhere, or like I try to understand where that comes from. And I look back at it, it's like if my mom's like yelling at me, I'm like, I know where that's coming from. It's either you're stressed or your reaction is coming from way back. And just to be compassionate for their reaction, and that will help you not react. Because I know I used to react almost the same way. I started reacting the same way my parents, when they went off on me, I started to respond the same way. And they're like, why are you yelling at me? I'm like, I wonder where I get it from. They really asked that. I'm like, you wonder why?
My dad was a strict Indian parent. My mom was more the subservient, very docile, never spoke up. Eventually she did, but always do what you're told, cooking, cleaning. Even now to this day, she'll say things like, I go, Mom, why do you do that? Like, you don't have to cook, you don't have to clean, you don't have to, if you're tired, just rest. She goes, it's because I'm a mother. I'm like, no. I'm like, no. You need to do what you want to do. Your title of I'm a mother or I'm this was something that was given because of the cultural background she came from. She was born in India.
My mom would say, I feel like a slave in the house. I'm like, Mom, you can clean if you don't want to.
Yeah. But yeah, so I totally.
And when they take it on, they feel like it's them alone when you try to offer, and they're like,
and they get nitpicky, they start micromanaging. You're like, no, I'm just trying to help. Please let me help.
Yes. A lot of back and forth, especially I feel when you want to like heal and grow, you need to want to learn about your parents and their pain and their grievances in order to grow. Because if you choose to run away from that, because I know a lot of kids, they choose to run away from their healing thinking that's the only way to get out of something. And I was this close to doing that, but I really decided I needed to face my demons by facing my parents and growing to love them and growing to unconditionally love their past and seeing why they treat me the way they do and learning to treat myself differently from their experiences.
Yeah, that's key, is if you can understand like you said earlier, if you understand the why, it'll lead you to understand so much more, not only about yourself, but where you've come from, so I think it's wonderful that you can influence people within, that maybe are like a lot younger that follow your page, and to do that, to do the work, to be a really good influence, to be such a strong role model for other women, maybe not only of brown culture, but just generally to like accept themselves and their femininity. That's something that I always took away from your page, was embracing my femininity.
Wait, thank you. I'm so blessed to have a platform to be able to do this. And I'm so proud that it's not just surface level, because I'm able to, as I grow throughout the years, show that growth. And trust me, I know I'm 22, but I feel like that experience that I went through in 2020 aged me at least 30 years.
Because age is very relative. It just depends on the experiences that you've been through. I'm just blown away at your wisdom, you know what I mean? So
for me, like, I have two close friends, like they're my best friends from literally elementary, and it's really hard for me to make new friends, unfortunately, just because like everything that I'm doing, it's hard to see actual genuine people when they walk into my life. So the few friends that I do have, they're very mature as well, and it's hard for me to get along with people my age because I feel like, oh, drugs, yay, drinking, yay. No. I'm good. know?
Oh God, crying. Yeah, no, I understand. I even have that. Like I understand because my brother says the same things. In that generation, unfortunately now, like drugs and drinking and having a grand old time is a norm, and I don't understand why that is. I can say, do you know the show Euphoria?
I do. I watched like a few episodes. I was like, this is too dark for me.
Oh, it's really it's really dark. But my brother's like, oh yeah, I'd say like that kind of represents my high school experience. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I go, drugs were this prominent in your high school experience? He goes, yeah. I'm like, that didn't happen for me till college. Like college that's not, whoa. I was like, oh no. But you're forced to grow up very quickly when you're surrounded by stuff like that, unfortunately. And to
Absolutely. I, I went to an art school where I had a similar experience, so I
mm,
completely understand.
yeah, it's wild what happens. My dad would say something similar to you, but he said, you are who you hang out with, which is true. I think who you surround yourself with um, definitely shapes who you become, because I mean you surround yourself with people who don't want to go anywhere in life, who are doing a bunch of drugs, drinking, partying all the time, then what are you going to do by association and default, so
Mhm.
it
Your
sucks, but
dad is
yeah.
so right. He's a superstar for saying that.
Yeah.
Like for me, like since 2020, I've let go of so many friends for like that
Mm,
reason, like really trying to, make my circle something where we all grow. And like I know what it's like to like party and drink and like wanting to find happiness doing those things.
mm,
But when you do the work to find and continuously chase a frequency of growing,
yeah.
it's hard to go back because then you're guided by your like intuition to
Yes.
understand when something makes you feel bad, to take a step back, or when something
Yeah.
makes you feel good, to go that way. And it's crazy that I feel that now because I'm like, oh my goodness, I wish I had this 2 years ago.
Well, your vibration lowers too. Like when your vibration lowers from surrounding yourself with or doing those things, and you notice your external world starts to reflect that, which is insane to me in a good way. It's like your external world is a direct reflection of your internal, and because you have to face yourself, and you for sure said this, but just to like reiterate, but you do have to face yourself to heal. I think a lot of people do try to run away from themselves. Like you can't just look at what everyone else has done to you or what has happened to you, but also like what you've done to other people maybe and you didn't know, or to yourself. um yeah, I think there's a lot of shame that comes behind that.
um for me, honestly, I don't feel like I was in tune with it until mid last year after I went through that whole journey. It
Mm,
was all kind of like a facade. I felt like I was talking all about self-love before then, but it didn't feel real to me until I really understood what loving myself was.
mm,
And I did the work. So it really started kind of like last year when I was hit rock bottom. I was on my couch crying, bawling, sitting there for days on end. And the moments that I started getting up and like, or I first started off listening to podcasts by Jay Shetty, like
mm.
honestly inspires me a lot. For me, one
Yes,
big one
same.
was Jay Shetty and Jada Pinkett Smith. That one helped me a lot to do that 1% a day, whether when it was so hard to get off the couch, I had to remind myself just 1% more every day, or just do 1% something different every day. And I feel like that's something that really helped me get up and just start moving. If you are in a hard place, that is my advice. Just 1% more, because you don't have to
Mm.
do 100% every day. That's daunting. 1%, 365 days, 365%, you know?
Yeah, yes, exactly.
So I started there. And after putting in the self work, like waking up early, um, I used to literally stay on my phone scrolling through TikTok till 2 a.m. And that would take away so much energy, mental energy. I would be anxious. And something that I've really worked on to get in touch with my femininity is to really hone in on my anxiousness, because I have ADHD, and anxiousness on top of that, not a good combination.
No.
I overthink everything, or like I'm always either I'm so far into the past or I'm so far into the future that I'm stuck in time. Like I'm either like scrolling through my phone in anxiousness because I don't know, I'm scared of the future, or I'm so traumatized by the past. And I'm just feels like time is passing and I'm just there. So for me, putting away my phone and just really trying to create a dedicated routine for myself in order to get my life aligned, whether it's waking up early, doing yoga. So I alternate with yoga and cardio every other day. And I stay off my phone usually until 11 a.m. ish. So that has been an amazing practice. I'm keeping off or turning off my phone at 12 p.m. on the weekend sometimes, but
We gotta have balance,
yeah, and especially doing social media, it's so important to have that balance. Otherwise, you can get so warped and it takes away from your creativity because it's draining your energy instead of you actually creating that energy that you want to give to others. And it's a hard shift to understand if you don't do that as a creator.
No, I completely agree. It's tough when you are a creator to stay engaged and stay active, but then at the same time set those boundaries with yourself so that you have time to recharge and refocus and be with yourself so that you can, come to those realizations, have those moments of inspiration, because inspiration doesn't come from staring at your phone 24/7. So no, but I think that's such a healthy boundary to have. I think a lot of people think that you need to always be on all the time to create, and it's not feasible in any way, shape, or form. I do this thing where I just take random hiatuses. I'll batch create a bunch of stuff, and then like mindlessly just start posting whatever I need to post on certain days just to keep engagement up. But I didn't post a YouTube video for like 2-3 weeks. I was like, nah, can't. But I think if you set that precedent of like, hey, I can't create, and this is my journey, this is what I'm going to do, your followers kind of tend to get used to it. Whereas like, I feel like I've seen so many creators where they create, and then they drop off and everyone's like, what happened? What? Like, what went on? So I tried to set it so early on. I was like, yeah, listen, it's not, I have a life. And I have myself. I need to take care of myself. Otherwise, how do I preach mental health and wellness if I'm not well? And that's, it'd be defeating the purpose. So,
and people only see like 2% of your life on whatever you post, on your stuff. They don't understand. And that's why you have to be your strongest person in setting those boundaries to grow. Because I know like the anxiousness on being on my phone would be like being on the next trend, or the numbers. If the numbers were dropping, that would affect me. But now I understand that if I need to take a step back, if I don't feel that creative energy, it's okay, just work on yourself. Because when I feel that, I feel like I need to work on myself.
Yeah, it's almost like you're no longer in your body and in yourself. You're a little too external, like all these other things are feeding your energy all of a sudden instead of you. So like you have to like stop and come home to yourself.
Enter yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And so like all levels, I think there's just so much validation that people seek through external all the time.
Exactly. And it's so easy to get swooped into that. And trust me, been there, done that. And just letting your intuition guide you. Like if something does feel like it's draining my energy, if I'm not doing the things that I like, my routine and stuff, and or it's getting like out of order, I know that something is happening and I have to reflect on what is taking away from my growth in those aspects, because those are designated times for my self-care. And if I'm not putting that there, then there's something else taking away from it that I need to shuffle around. So
exactly.
but to be like really feminine and hone in on that energy, you need to be present. So like I said, my anxiousness was taking me into the future and the past, but I wasn't focusing on being present and focusing on what I can do right now. Because whenever we want to be, when we're thinking about the past, where we want to be in the future, that we want to do something about it, it's kind of like a dominant energy or a masculine energy that's kind of like, you need to do something about it.
Yeah.
But the true feminine energy is really being present and being guided by, your intuition and doing what makes you happy, and not chasing things but attracting it and going at your own pace, your own time, and flowing with time. But I also have a podcast. I don't know if you know that, but
No, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
It's called Flow State Pod because
I've heard of, someone mentioned it to me. They actually told me to listen to it.
really,
Yeah, like I legit wrote it down in my phone notes. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Okay.
but I talk about flow state, which is about being present in time and how flowing with your time, because a lot of people are anxious overthinkers, and like when you're thinking about your goals in the future, where there's 10 years away, it's going to make you anxious, and it's going to make it difficult for you to appreciate the things in the now, like, oh my goodness, I gotta graduate, do this and this by this age, blah 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 blah, this age. um and just going with time is a hard feeling to explain if you don't do it.
Yeah.
Not feeling rushed by time, like it's kind of like there's a point A to point B syndrome. We're so anxious of getting point A to point B instead of actually being present and like not having your heart race at 100 miles per hour trying to get to a destination, because you'll get there in your time. You just have to train your mind and body to work at the same pace, because sometimes your heart is going faster than your mind and your mind is running faster than your heart. It's a matter of finding the balance to move forward.
I might send you this meditation. I did there's this meditation I do that aligns your your mind and your heart. I'll send it to you. I think you'd like it. But yeah, it's I think finding that balance and peace of being present is so uncomfortable with everyone. It's I've noticed, like, if like some of my friends are always chasing this what if, and when will this happen? How do I prepare for that? Or all the things. I always am the really chilled out friend that's like, so what's going on now? What do you have now going on for you in your life? And they get frustrated by that. They're like, no, I have to do everything. I'm like, well, okay, there's some balance. I mean, you can't just sit on your butt and do nothing, but you do as much as you can. And then, like you said, allow time and energy and, the universe, however it works, I have no idea, to guide you and go where it needs to go, as opposed to like try to control everything 24/7, which is very masculine. Yeah, I've been trying to find the balance between my masculine energy and my feminine. I'm always in a masculine state.
Same.
Yeah,
I'm a giver. I love giving and giving and giving. I don't know how to receive a lot of the time, but I'm trying to train myself to, like, receive and attract instead of chasing and giving all the time, because that's what I love to do. I'm a Leo, so I'm very in the masculine energy.
I'm an Aries, so I understand.
Our fieriness really be masculine like that.
Oh yeah, because we're like, no, like someone does anything, you're like, okay, I'm like, let me just take a seat and chill for a sec.
Exactly. And we just gotta learn to find the balance, especially if you want to have a balanced life. You could be masculine and dominant and just try and be on top of everyone, but that's not going to make you happy at the end of the day if you don't choose to find that balance within yourself.
The last question I ask before people go is, if anyone was listening that could resonate with your story and what you've been through, what would be the advice that you would give them?
I would say, oh my goodness, this is hard. See, when people ask me questions like this, I'm like, be present, enjoy everything that is around you, or just do one thing at a time in front of you to get to the destination you want to be. Because if you don't you are going to feel like you're constantly running out of time. But just know that you are abundant in time always.
I love that. That was wonderful. But thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate this conversation.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for listening. And remember, you have to go through the eye of the storm to see the clear horizon ahead. Thanks so much, guys, and I'll see you next week.